All right. Let's get this party started. All right, this is week 5. Week 5. Next week is your final. I already have sheets over by the door, so as you leave this morning or tonight, grab one of those sheets. Here is your homework for this week. You are going to take the mapping outline, the me, we, God, you, we. You're going to take that home and you are going to build a lesson this week. So you choose your passage and your big idea, and you map it out. One of a couple of ways. I have done both, and I've done it both ways, and sometimes I do both ways in the same sermon. But sometimes I script out what I'm going to say, almost word for word. I don't plan it that way. It's just sometimes I run across something, I'm like, oh, and I start typing it out, and I'm like, I want to say it exactly like that. And so I'll script out a paragraph, and next thing I know, I've written 4 paragraphs. But you can script it out and then become familiar with it for delivery, or you can outline. Well, I bullet point. I don't outline. I hate outlining. But you can outline if you like an outline form. If an outline helps you remember what you want to say, or the way I do it most of the time is I just bullet point. And I'll type a short sentence that helps me remember what I want to say, and I read that sentence off and I just run for it from what I've prepared. If I'm really, really, really creative on a sermon, I will script it out and I'll work on it and work on it and work on it, and then I'll bullet point out my script. And then I'll deliver the message from my bullet points. So there's multiple ways to do it. Scripting, just writing it out word for word, how you want to say it, bullet pointing, or doing an outline. But that's what we want to do for next week. Now, you're not going, don't skip next week. All right? Don't do it. I'm not going to make you deliver in front of everyone. We might give a few people that would like to the option. If everybody wanted to, we wouldn't have time to do everybody. But we might give a few options. But do come prepared to let someone else that you trust look over it. All right? So we're gonna bring them in next week, and we're gonna trade them and look over them and kind of give some pointers and helping items and ask questions. We're actually going to apply a lot of the things we're going to talk about tonight that you'll be able to apply next week. But tonight's a fun night. I know I've had some conversations with folks that are saying maybe it's just me, and it's not. But maybe it's just me, but I'm lost. I am lost on what we're doing. I'm lost in what we're trying to do, and it seems like people at my table are getting it. And that's why we're doing what we're doing this next week, because you're probably not as lost as you think you are. You just gotta put it to paper yourself. You gotta do the work yourself. And so far, everything we've done has been group work. And so if you've got, someone like Daniel who does a lot of talking and doesn't let other people talk, maybe you've not gotten a chance to do the work. And so I want you to do the work at home and then bring it in next week. But tonight, I want to talk about tips and tricks for effective communication. We've talked about why words matter, but just put it there at the top of your sheet. Words have the power to build up or tear down, to bring clarity or confusion, to offer life or bring harm. God designed communication not just to transfer information, but to transform hearts. And when we choose our words on purpose, we reflect His wisdom and His grace. And so these tips and tricks will help us not only choose our words wisely, but deliver them with humility, spiritual sensitivity, and lasting impact. All right? So we're talking about choosing our words wisely, communicating on purpose. So the very first one, what would you imagine is the first thing to do? What's that? Pray. They're interchangeable, but yeah, the first two are pray before you speak and think before you speak. We should probably do this more often than we do, right? Just in regular communication. I'm not just delivering messages, not just delivering Sunday school lessons or leading small group studies. Sometimes we should exercise prayer before we have conversations and ask God to help your words carry His wisdom, not your own. Not just your own opinions, asking for clarity, asking for grace. It can reshape your tone when you pray before you speak. And then think before you speak. Ask yourself, why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? What do I want the listener to understand or feel? What do I want the listener to understand or feel? Intent matters, but impact matters more. You want to make the right impact, especially if you're going to prepare. You want it to land the way you've prepared for it to land. So pray before you speak, think before you speak. Number 3, listen first, speak second. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. You've had conversations with those people. Maybe you are that person that you can just tell you're the one talking, but they're not listening. They're waiting for you to take a breath so they can jump in and say what they want to say, or they're thinking about what they want to say next, right? Listen first, speak second. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Active listening shows respect and it builds bridges. It builds trust. A good way of letting your audience know that you're listening. What's a good thing to do to let your audience know you're listening to them? Eye contact? Absolutely. Absolutely. Nodding. Repeating back what they said, absolutely. Repeat back what you heard to confirm you understood. If I understand you correctly, you're saying this. So listen first, speak second. Let's do one more, and then I'm gonna send it to the tables for a couple minutes. Choose words that build, not break. Choose words that build, not break. I pastored for many years before I felt God's conviction on this. Doesn't mean the Holy Spirit wasn't convicting before then, but probably, 10, maybe 15 years ago, I fell under severe conviction about the way that I talked. Two of my main communication tools were sarcasm. Matter of fact, I would joke that sarcasm was one of my spiritual gifts. That was the way my family communicated, was sarcasm and passive aggressiveness. Being passive aggressive, playfully passive aggressive, sarcastic. But yeah, about 10, 15 years ago, the Lord convicted me of that. Avoid sarcasm, avoid exaggeration, harsh criticisms. Don't use extreme words. That would fall under exaggeration. People always, everybody, nobody, people never avoid extreme language, exaggeration, sarcasm, harsh criticism, and replace those things with observations. Like specific observations. There was one time I experienced this. Instead of, people are always saying this. And then use feelings. Use feelings when you choose your words. Choose words that build, not break. Aim for words that edify. You might want to write these 3 words down. Aim for words that edify, clarify, and unify. Aim for words that edify, clarify, and unify. Now, I'm not saying, hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. I'm not saying don't say anything that's going to be offensive. That's not unifying. It's not unifying. Just because nobody gets mad doesn't mean that's not unifying, all right? Unifying sometimes brings people around the truth and leads others to choose not to participate. But choose words, aim for words that edify, clarify, and unify. Let's take a few minutes around your tables. Make sure we're understanding these 4 points. So at your table, ask for clarification among those at your table. Give examples. Talk about experiences you've had with maybe positive or negative in these first 4 things. All right. All right. Let's keep moving. By the way, all of these points can be used for conversations. They can be used for arguments. They can be used for writing. I employ every one of these things in my writing, whether I'm writing a sermon or whether I'm writing a social media post or whatever it is that I'm writing, a blog. This one's a big one. Match tone to the message. Match tone to the message. Tone communicates more than content. As a listener or a reader, don't add tone where it doesn't belong. Don't read tone into text messages or emails. This is why somebody, probably a millennial, invented emojis. So that when you say something direct, you can add a smiley face after it. So that the person knows you're not being mean. Now, again, those emojis get misused as well. But tone is important. This is why so many things get miscommunicated in text messages and social media posts because words on a screen do not communicate tone unless you're using tonal words, right? Tonal words are words that convey emotion. When you say, I'm happy, this makes me angry. I'm very sad to have to say this. Use words that describe, if you want a message to carry tone, use tonal words. Warmth and calmness when you're addressing correction and conflict. When you're encouraging, let your voice and your expression carry joy, or add the emojis that come with joy, or use joyful words when you're trying to be encouraging. Match your tone to your message. Here's one that a lot more preachers need to hear than what actually applies. Be clear, not clever. Be clear, not clever. Simplicity often carries more power than complexity. And I know for me, especially in communicating in a sermon, I don't want to use a bunch of big theological terms, yet at the same time, I don't want you to be ignorant, brethren. I want you to learn those terms because other people do use them. And the Bible uses them sometimes. And so I know I was guilty in the first several years of my ministry. Unless I was reading it straight out of the passage, I just never used words like sanctification or justification. The problem is the Bible uses those words. And I would just explain the word rather than say the word. I would put it in simple language, and that's good, but there is a balance to it as well, especially for me. But be clear, not clever. I've watched young people, and again, know your audience too. But I've watched young people try to deliver a message to an audience of adults, and they use young people jargon. And it's just goes right over their head, you know? And then, and so the message isn't understood, but the person delivering it thought they were pretty clever. I've also watched old people try to use young people language. I do sometimes for fun. Give an example, Owen. I did. And I felt stupid saying it too. Yes. But I don't even know what it means, so I completely used it. I don't think anybody knows what it means, but back a few years ago, there was about 2 weeks. There was about 2 weeks where young people were using the word lit, and they moved on. It was already past, and I used it for something, and it just erupted in laughter, and that's lit. Be clear, not clever. Don't use things that confuse or alienate your audience. Again, sometimes we do things because we know we'll get a laugh out of a certain group of people, but if we alienate other people and they go, I don't know, you're not earning trust. in that communication. And then, so then you're going to have to do something else to rebuild that trust. Again, remember, especially when we're talking about the context that we're talking about, God's word, you are God's messenger, you are not God. Key thing to remember. Here's one for all kinds of communication. Be fully present. Be fully present. What? That was a Freudian way of hearing that. I don't know. Be fully present. In other words, put these away. If you're talking to someone, don't be talking while you're doing something. Put it away. And if you're listening to someone, put these away. There was a stretch of time where everyone would put it face down on the table. These things don't belong at dinner tables. Listen, I know all of you fairly well, and there's not a single one of you important enough to have this at the dinner table. And what might come through this is not nearly as important as the people you're sitting at the table with. That was truth spoken in love. We're going to get to that. Be fully present. Put away distractions. Make eye contact. Your body language should say, you matter to me. And so if Isaiah's talking to me and I'm standing there talking to Isaiah and I'm going, yeah? I'm not present. What's that? I catch myself doing it way more than I should. I'm preaching to myself as well. Yes, Evelyn. Out of the mouth of babes. Love it. Speak truth in love. Here's another one. Time and place matter. Time and place matter. Some conversations require privacy. Other conversations thrive in community. Be a student of human behavior. Know the difference. Don't rush deep talks or have them in tense environments. Know your audience, know the time and the place to have. And again, if we're talking about the gospel conversations, the place may not be running into each other do workplaces have drinking fountains anymore? Everybody carries Stanleys, I don't know. But if, explaining the gospel to someone, the time and place may not be at the water fountain. There may be an opportunity to drop a nugget at the water fountain. But again, if you're being paid by your employer and sorry, I say things that I don't mean. Like a nugget of truth, not a brown nugget. Don't drop those at the water fountain. What's that? I saw people snickering. I knew. I'm not going to tell you what they are. If you've missed them, you've missed them. but I am well known for saying things that I don't understand myself. Things that have innuendo and meanings that I don't know what they mean. And it's notorious for happening on Sunday morning. And I've got some very corrupt-minded people that sit toward the back of the room. And you'll see, you can just watch it. The snickering, the shoulders will start heaving in the back, and it just starts moving forward. Well, I'm 2 paragraphs away from what I said. I don't even remember what I said. And then all of a sudden the laughter hits me and I'm like, what? What'd I say? And then everybody's like, no, just move on. Just keep going. Yeah, time and place matter. Time and place matter. Make sure you have time and you're in the right place to have the conversations that need to be had. Ask good questions. Ask good questions. Good questions are not questions that can be answered with a yes or a no. Have you ever answered questions and you get yeses and nos and that's it? Mm-hmm. And you're like, and ask open-ended questions. Can you tell me more? How did that make you feel? Can you unpack that for me? You start using those words, you could get a counseling degree. My favorite one, what's that?
It's true, I have 2.
There you go. My favorite question, anybody know what my favorite question is? I hate that question. And it's just part of conversations. I hate it though. How you doing? How you doing? No, my favorite question is why? Why? And there is power in 5 whys. Because a lot of times, if you say, especially if people give you like a churchy answer or a Jesus answer or a Sunday school kind of answer, and you ask them, why? And then they give you the answer and you go, why? Well, because, why do you do that? About 5 whys in, they'll finally answer the question you're really looking for. Or they'll finally go, oh, I see where you're going now. So ask good questions. Because they bring... Ask good questions. Here's one. Again, this is good for almost all communication. Respond, don't react. Respond, don't react. This is one that my human nature struggles with. Respond, don't react. Take a pause when emotions are running high. Take a pause when emotions run high. Proverbs 15:1, anybody know what Proverbs 15:1 says? Somebody's looking it up. A soft... There you go. Soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Respond, don't react. Maybe pray before replying. Think before you speak. Next one there is use the think test. And think stands for this. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Now, again, on the surface, you may think, well, okay, so you should never say anything negative because it's not helpful. Really? What if it's necessary? Now, again, if Danny is a follower of Jesus and Danny has stepped into community with us, and part of that community is Danny is saying, I want to become more and more in every way like Jesus. And I want to participate in this community, and I want this community to walk in that with me in accountability. Then if I see something that is helpful to him, but might call out an error in him, it's still helpful, right? And if he wants to become more and more in every way like Jesus, then it's necessary. And it is kind. Now, I can say, Danny, you dirtbag, stop that. That's not kind. It's not kind. But correction and reproof and rebuke is kind because we all desire to become more like Jesus. Problem is, we all want just Jesus to be the one to tell us. And Jesus uses humans. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? What's that? It should be all those, yeah. According to me.
So I need to think whether you think it's
That's right. Yeah. I mean, what's an example that you've got that all those may not be true? Yeah. Yeah. Do the two of you need to apply the think test with each other tonight? No. I'm just kidding. There's just two direct people talking.
That's right.
Absolutely. Sometimes it is not perceived as kind or inspiring because multiple factors. One, it can be perceived as unkind or untrue or not inspiring or unnecessary because the person said they wanted accountability and they do not. Yeah. They do not want accountability. It sounds nice. It's like, there's been a lot of things in my life. There were years and years and years. I said I wanted to go to the gym, but the reality was I wanted to go to the gym. I didn't really want to go to the gym. Or I wanted to get up at 5 every morning and have time with Jesus before my day started. No, if I wanted it, I would do it. It's that I wanted to want it. And what I wanted the benefits of it without the work. And that's what people sometimes want with accountability. Another reason why it may not pass the think test for the person you're talking to is because you haven't developed trust. You have not built the trust. You've not earned the trust to deliver that kind of news. Now, again, that's not to say that you have to earn that trust. I think we could probably look at several places in Scripture where Paul is saying something pretty direct to someone that we don't know that he had earned their trust. And we certainly know that he says things in Scripture, or Jesus said things to Pharisees. He had not earned their trust, but he still spoke them. So it's not to say that you have to, but if you can, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. And so that trust, earned trust, can help you deliver an important message. But again, it's not required. But you need to be able to evaluate, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? This one's an easy one. And again, for a lot of conversations, adapt to your audience. Adapt to your audience. Speak differently to a child than you do to a peer or a leader. 1 Corinthians 9:22, Paul says, I am all things to all men, that I might by all means save some. So be willing to adapt to your audience.
So I think testifies differently than what you're talking to. Like Sue was saying, people might find different things kind or.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I think even adapting to your audience, I think there's limitations. Again, I have to acknowledge my age. And so to adapt to this audience right here, I'm not going to try to talk like them because it is not going to earn me respect. It's just going to earn a lot of laughs. They're just going to laugh at me. Now, there are some things I can do to adapt to them that may earn their trust. They may go, all right, he's wrong, but he's trying. He's trying to connect with us. So adapt to your audience. Be willing to be all things to all people. And again, this is one, I'm not a small talk person. I hate small talk. I have, it does not concern me what the weather is like outside. I was going to say, I don't care about the weather. Sue doesn't like it when I say, I don't care. And I've adapted to my audience. I've learned from Sue. The weather does not concern me at all. Sports, trivial life things, I just want to cut through all of it and say, how's your walk with Jesus today? I want to cut through that. That's not knowing my audience, though. And so if and this one's the really hard one for me. When mechanics, I finally reached a point where I can just pay a mechanic to do the work that I trust. And for years, I have had friends work on my car. Men in the church work on my car. And I say this with love, but it was like I would rather take nails to the eyeballs because they would work on my car for free, and I was greatly appreciative, but many of these guys wanted to talk to me about what they were doing. And it's like German, English, French, Spanish. I just, okay. And so, because they're donating their time, y'all are reflecting back on things we've done together like this, but because they're donating their time to fix my car, they want me to keep them company while they're doing it. Rightly so, right? And so I stand out next to my car with them and with my hands in my pockets, and they start talking about crankshafts and spark plugs and combustion and oil and all the stuff that I don't know what it is. And no, I know what oil is, but I don't care. and two, all I need to know is what's it going to cost me. But those conversations can sometimes earn you the trust to have deeper conversations. It develops intimacy and earns trust. So I promise not to ever ask anybody in this room to work on my car, but don't tell my secrets to those that aren't in the room, all right? Oh, goodness. All right. Here's one that we've touched on a few times. Don't just communicate facts. Communicate faith.
Communicate what?
Faith. I gotta have faith, faith, faith. I know my audience. I was talking to him. He got it. Don't just communicate facts, communicate faith. Don't just inform, transform. Aim for heart change, not just head knowledge. Purposeful communication doesn't just inform minds, it forms hearts. Forms hearts. Whether teaching or counseling or encouraging, your words can help others see God's character more clearly. I was talking to somebody today about sometimes we miss the forest for the trees. Sometimes we get caught up in doing, whether it's down here teaching 6 to 10s, whether it's leading a small group with our youth, whether it's attending an event, and we get caught up in the fact that we were there, we did the thing, we had the conversations, but we miss the needs right in front of us. We miss the hurting hearts. We miss the depressed souls. We miss the insecurities because we're so busy accomplishing the task of getting together, having the class, doing the thing, that we miss the opportunity to shepherd. We miss the opportunity to interact and to, sorry, Isaiah, you're the one sitting right in front of me, to look into Isaiah's eyes and see the hurt, or to see the joy, or to see the pain, or to see the confusion, and be able to go, not how you doing, but you all right? What's going on? Tell me more. And that takes time, but that's ministry. That's ministry. And there's, I've, it's probably been a year or so ago, I just set the message that I had planned aside just to talk about people, just trying to encourage people to look around and to peer beyond the facade that we see at the people around you. Because I knew at that time, I knew of about 40 problems that were happening in people's lives, whether it was their marriages, whether it was their kids, whether it was their jobs, whether it was their finances. There were about 40 deep problems that existed in our church at that moment. And we were all there just with smiles on our faces, singing the songs. And sometimes we got to stop and think about that. Don't just communicate facts, communicate faith. The goal is not just to inform, it's to form hearts and to help others see God's character more clearly. And sometimes we assume things. We assume things about somebody because of the family they're in, or because of the kind of car they drive, or because of the mask they wear, or because of their airbrushed social media posts about how amazing and awesome their family is and what a great time they had doing da 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 da. And we go, oh, their life's perfect. I don't need to invest in them because, and we move on and we walk right past an opportunity. Don't just communicate facts, communicate faith. Be generous with encouragement. Be generous with encouragement. Again, many of these are lessons I've learned the hard way. I used to say, I do not have the spiritual gift of mercy. And I've learned I am very merciful. I just don't tolerate stupid. I'm very merciful, but I just don't tolerate stupid. And so, and there is a difference, but be generous with encouragement. Everyone needs affirmation. Everyone needs affirmation. And you don't have to lie to do it. Everyone needs affirmation. Again, if you just spend time getting to know, talk to the people, not at the people. Don't just get through the communication gauntlet of, hi, how are you? Good to see you today. Oh, yeah, it's good to see you too. Don't just get through the gauntlet. That's one of the greatest hardships I have as our church has gotten bigger. As we're bumping that 350 mark on Sundays, first thing I do when the last person leaves the building, first thing I do is come downstairs and take a nap. I need a nap after that, after 2 services. But a big part of my emotions on Sunday are, I really only got to have 5. There were 350 people here, and I got to have 5 meaningful conversations. That's hard when you love the whole family, and you just don't get to do that. But yet at the same time, there's so many beautiful benefits to our church, the size that it is now, and the people that we have. But that is hard. But be generous with encouragement. I'll give you an example. I lead a team of people in the community. We are the donor advisors for a large fund. There's 5 of us, and we've got a bunch of money at the Truman Heartland Community Foundation, and it is our job to disperse that money for community needs as it's requested. And so one of the members of my advisory team submitted something as an opportunity as the holidays are coming. Hey, CSL's not going to be able to do this. Can we do this? But it's going to take some money. Can we give this money? And it's one of the members of the advisory team that's offering it. And there is another member of this team that has an axe to grind with that person. And no matter what this person says, this person finds fault with what they said, not with them. You know what I'm saying? And so after all the exchanges happened, we made the decision. I'm going to get the check cut and make sure it gets to where it needs to go. After all that, I just sent an email to the one person and said, hey, I just want to let you know, I really appreciate the tact with which you handled that and the grace that you showed in a communication that could have been perceived as troublesome and toxic. I said, thank you for responding graciously. And she responded back to me and said, this email means the world to me. And it was just an observation, but just be an encouragement. You handled that conversation with so much grace. You could have, so thank you for responding that way. Or, man, thank you so much for noticing that. Man, that was really observant of you to have brought that out. Encourage people. Be an encouragement. Be generous with encouragement. Do you know the number one reason a lot of us don't give encouragement? Because we don't get it. Nobody gives it to me. Why should I give it to anybody else? Or don't know how. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody's ever encouraged me. Why should I encourage others? There's multiple passages where Jesus did that very thing, right? Where he withheld encouragement because he wasn't being encouraged. All over the place, yeah. Be generous with encouragement. And if you don't know how to be an encouragement, learn. Get around somebody that is. Spend time with people that are encouraging. Or come talk to me. I'll help you. Be generous with encouragement. Use stories and word pictures. Use stories and word pictures. My son-in-law, a couple years ago, did a Wednesday night class on parables, how the stories that Jesus spoke using. And Jesus used a lot of parables, but use stories and word pictures. Stories stick when statements fade. It's a good statement. Stories stick when statements fade. And again, I'm terrible about this, and it's my failure to plan. But there are some people that are really, really good at like object lessons, and like people may not even know what the subject was, but people will remember me turning water blue for months, way longer than they remember what I was talking about when I did it. It just, stories stick. So use stories and word pictures. Analogies help connect abstract truth to lived experience. So use stories and word pictures. Here's one. Know when to pause. Know when to pause. Sometimes silence is the most powerful communication. Pauses can give weight to your words and space for reflection. Now, on the other hand, you can talk too slow. So you got to be careful with that. But a well-timed pause gives space for reflection, repentance, peace, to allow peace to settle in. If this applies to you, you don't have to fill every gap with noise. I know when I'm teaching like this, I'm okay with awkward silence. There are people that sit in my classes that are not. And so if someone else doesn't answer, they answer. It's like, shut up, give other people time to think, you know? Sorry, am I allowed to say shut up? Okay, good. I didn't want you to get in trouble because you heard bad words tonight. But yeah, know when to pause. Awkward silence is sometimes effective. It's effective. So let silence work for you. Here's an analogy where when I pause, it scares people now. Most of you weren't here at the time, but about 12 years ago, on a Sunday morning, I paused and then had a stroke on stage. And so every time and a lot of people were like, they didn't know anything was going on because I had introduced a passage of scripture and then stepped down a few steps and just stood there and paused. And people were like, yeah, he does that. He's getting ready to make a point. What's the point he's about ready to make? And I just never talked after it. And so I ended up collapsing after it, and people were like, ah. So now every time I pause, those people that were here are like, so got to be careful with your pauses. Don't have strokes. Anchor your words in truth, not emotion. Feelings are valid, but they're not final. Speak from conviction, not reaction. Especially when your emotions are running high. Truth should be spoken, according to Ephesians 4:15, with love, not pride, or pressure, or passive aggressiveness. Anchor your words in truth, not emotion. Right along the same lines, check your heart posture. Check your heart posture. Communication often reveals your motivation. Maybe ask yourself, am I trying to win, prove, fix, or love? Do you want to be right, or do you want to be righteous? Purposeful communication flows from humility, not dominance. Purposeful communication flows from humility, not dominance. Now, again, humility is not weakness, but to be meek and humble is not to go, hey, Isaiah, I was kind of wanting to maybe talk to you about something that, man, it's really hard to say, and I don't want you to take it wrong. I have a hard time with people that preface things. Now, don't take this wrong. That means you've already anticipated that what you're going to say is something I should take wrong, or you think I'm somebody that's going to take something wrong. I don't like to preface things that I say with telling them, I do. Hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. But when I'm having a direct conversation, I don't want to start with the posture that I'm assuming you're going to take it wrong. I'm assuming you're going to think I have the wrong heart, or I'm assuming that you think that I think you're despicable or whatever. So check your heart posture. Purposeful communication comes from humility, not dominance. Mind the gap between intention and perception. You may mean to help, but your audience might feel criticized or dismissed. Now, again, you can only control what? You. You can only control your attitude. So hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. You can't control their perception. You can only control how you are being perceived.
What do you mean by mind?
What's that?
So what do you mean by mind?
Be aware. Mind the gap. Be aware of the gap between perception and intention. Ask questions like ask follow-ups. Did that come across the way that I meant it? What was that look for?
I don't know what you meant.
Yeah. Tell me what you think I heard. Or tell me what you think I said. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that we have to be aware that there is a gap between intention and
Yes. Yes.
so you can't know what the other person really perceived. You just have to know they might not have perceived it the way you intended.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're being observant and you're in the moment, you're watching their face, just like I was watching Josh's, and Josh's face went, yeah. That's why I love, if you'll watch me preach, I preach to the cameras and Ted a lot, because Ted's face tells me everything. He'll go, and I'll go, okay, what did I say wrong? Or what do I need to clarify? Or do I need to repeat that again? Or he'll go, mm-hmm. Or he'll sit there and he'll fold his arms and he'll move his toothpick from one side to the other. And I know he's pondering on that. And so I've given him something to think about. So now I need to add that purposeful pause. So mind the gap between intention and perception. Be aware of the fact that your intentions may not be perceived as you're delivering them. Be aware. And so be willing to ask. Does that make sense? And then, if you're that person that's maybe not perceiving the intentions correctly, you can say, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is, and then you can repeat it back. Be aware of the gap between intention and perception. Be willing to ask clarifying questions. Use I statements instead of you statements. Use I statements instead of you statements. If you follow me on social media, when I post a blog or I do a Facebook, I do almost everything through blog and Facebook post. I don't post. If it makes it to Instagram or Twitter, it's because Alex got it there or something. I hit something that made it share with other things. But I'll usually, if I'm reading an article or I'm watching a reel, it starts my brain thinking, and then so that I start talking and I ask a lot of questions, and then I go back through what I've typed and I change because I do. What would you do if, and when you act this way, you are, and so I go back through and I change all those to, if I do this, then I might be feeling this way. And it just, I feel hurt when, or it's less defensive than you always. It invites understanding instead of escalation. And when I use I instead of you, it gives people the opportunity to go, ooh, I do that too. Rather than receiving it as, he's accusing me. So I use I statements instead of you statements. Affirm before you advise. I talked about this one a few weeks ago. Affirm before you advise. Don't, or when correction is needed, start with affirmation. Remember I told you the story about, I start things with, hey, you really did a great job on this, and I really like the way you've been doing this, and people already, they know that communication style, and they go, but, and sometimes there is a but, sometimes there's not, but affirm before you advise. I really appreciate your heart for this. Can I share a thought that might help? You did a really good job. Alex, I don't know how many of those conversations Alex and I have had in his beginning months of working here. Hey, I really like that. You did a great job on that. Can I give you a tip on how to do that in the future? It lowers defenses and it builds trust. I do this a lot in my sermons. Repeat key truths. Don't assume that saying it one time is going to convey a long-term understanding. Repetition, when it's done gently, it cements the ideas and the values into memory. And then right on time, the last one, invite feedback. How do my words come across to you? Do you feel heard when I talk? Invite feedback. Does that make sense? Does this sound doable? Any questions? Anyone? Yeah, I got crazy on the questions. I just kept adding. And so the questions at the end are for you to process at home. I was hoping to give you opportunity to process them at the table, but yeah, I got crazy with, and I could probably give 50 more communication tips and tricks. Communication tips and trips? Tips and trips? Tips and tricks. Yeah. Yeah. Any questions? Maybe next week we'll have time. I don't know. I was going to ask you, what are some things that annoy you in communication? What are some things that you see in communication, whether it's your own or other people? What are some things that annoy you? Maybe write those down on your sheet. Don't forget to grab the handouts on the cart over there as you leave. Choose a passage. From your passage, choose a big idea, and then develop your map. Map your message. Be ready to share it next week with somebody. Amen? Amen. You're dismissed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.